In this video, we will try to learn Func, action, and predicate delegate. These three delegates are inbuilt delegate in C#. We'll try to explore what are they. These are the following points we will cover. Number one is what are Func, action, and predicate delegate. Number two is how to express Func, action, and predicate delegates by named method, anonymous method, and by Lambda expression. Number three is how Func is related with predicate delegate. We'll try to explain this by concept and by some codes. In the next video, I will try to demonstrate some real-life example of Func, action, and predicate delegate. In this tutorial, we are going to demonstrate three inbuilt delegates in .NET: Func, action, and predicate. These three are inbuilt delegate in C#. We can call them generic delegates as well. In our regular programming, instead of creating delegate signature, C# has provided us these three inbuilt delegates. We can use them in most of the cases where we need delegates. Let's demonstrate these delegates by some example. From the left, we have the add method, which is taking two integers as parameter and returning the sum of it. The second one is add and print, which is also taking two integers and printing the sum here. And the last one is to check whether a number is a positive number or not. So this is also taking integer as parameter and returning some boolean value. Let's demonstrate how we can write func for this add method. Func delegate can take 0 or more input parameters and 1 output parameters. We will go in more details later. For now, the func is having two integers parameter as input and the last one is the output. And we are referring our add method here. So our add method has two integers. So the first two parameter or generic type of this func method is our parameters in the add method. And the last one is of type integer, which is the return type of add method. How to call func? This is similar to delegate. We can just pass two parameters in the object and we will get the result. Let's demonstrate how to write actions. So here we don't have any return type. So in add and print we have two integer parameter. Action delegate takes 0 or more input parameters and there is no output parameter. So how to map this method? As add and print has two integer type, so our action should have also two integer type. These are the in parameters. Okay, so in func and action we have in parameters and out parameters. So in case of func we have two integer in parameter and one integer out parameter. In case of action we have two integer in parameter. There is no return type. That's why we used action here. Now how to invoke this delegate? This is simple and similar like func. We can just pass these two parameters to the instance of this delegate. Let's see how to use predicate delegate. So predicate delegate takes only one generic type. So as our method has integer parameter, so we are taking integer parameter here and by default it is returning boolean. We can use predicate delegate just simply by passing the parameter. Okay. So when to use what? Func is used when our method has return type. Action is used when we are not returning anything. We have a function of return type void. In that case, we are going to use action. Predicate is used to just execute some expression. In this case, we're just returning some boolean checking, right? Like a greater than 0, or say for example, we can check even number, odd number. So in that case, a percentage 2 equals to 0 is basically even number. For this kind of boolean checking logic, we can use predicate delegate. Let's have a look in more detail. Func is a .NET inbuilt delegate can take 16 generic type input parameter and one generic type output parameter. The generic type output parameter is basically the return type. So this is a screenshot taken from Visual Studio. So we can see here we have 16 parameters from T1 to T16, and there is one output parameter which is T result. We have already seen we can create a func delegate to refer a named method, right? But also we can use func for anonymous method and also for lambda expression. Let's see how. Here we have the same add method. Now we can write anonymous method instead of a name method, which is a delegate. We have already seen how to write anonymous method in our previous video. So this is the anonymous method, delegate int a int b and returning a plus b. We can simply assign it to a func. Same way as we have already seen in previous video that anonymous method is basically lambda expression. So if we can map a func to one anonymous method, so that means we can create func for lambda expression as well. So this is the way we can assign a lambda expression to a func. So instead of anonymous method, we are writing the lambda expression here, which is taking a and b as parameter, and then the lambda operator, and we are returning a plus b. Let's have a look what is action. So action is a .NET inbuilt delegate can take 16 generic type input parameter, and we have already seen that there is no return type, so the return type is by default void. So here in the screenshot we can see that action can take input type of parameter or in type parameter from T1 to T16. Similar like func, we can use action for anonymous method and lambda expression as well. So we have the same method add and print taking integer a and integer b as parameter. So simply we can create one delegate having parameter a and b, and we are writing the sum in the console, and we are referring this anonymous delegate in action. So action is used when we are not returning anything. We are just doing some manipulation inside the method, but we are not returning. In that type of method, we are going to use action. So this is how we can assign a lambda expression to action like func. So this is our lambda expression taking parameter a and b and then lambda operator, and we are simply writing it to console, and we are assigning this lambda expression into action. Now what is predicate? In programming language, predicate means a function that takes one argument which returns true or false. So from this screenshot we can see predicate is taking one in type of generic parameter. So when we are going to use predicate delegate, a method which take one generic type parameter. It may contain some set of criteria. As we have seen that we ultimately need to return a Boolean expression. So there may be some set of criteria satisfied inside the function. And it would check those criteria would be satisfied or not. And ultimately it will return true or false. So for this type of method, which is returning true or false based on some criteria, we can use predicate. There is a way we can use func delegate as predicate. On the above statement, I have declared one predicate delegate taking integer parameter, and there is one anonymous method which is returning a positive number. Here, instead of predicate, we can write func. The in parameter is int, and the last parameter, which is the output parameter or out parameter, is bool. So this will also take integer parameter and return some Boolean value. And we have assigned the same anonymous delegate here in func. It will act as predicate. Let's have some practical demonstration how we can implement func, action and predicate by some C# code. This is Visual Studio and a console application. So I have written console.readline just to pause the screen. So starting with func first. So before passing any argument or parameter here, let's see what is the structure of func. So func is basically a inbuilt delegate. By default, it is taking one parameter, out t result. T result is a generic parameter. So that means func can take 0 in parameter and 1 out parameter here. If we go into detail of this implementation of func, how it is written, let's see. See here, func is a delegate which is having out parameter t result, and this is returning this out parameter, this output parameter type t result. So it has 17 overloaded representation of it. Okay, let's have some parameter. This is our in parameter and we have one out parameter. Let's take a string here and let's go to definition. See, the func is now, this is the second overloaded method. It's taking one in generic type of parameter and one out generic type of parameter. By default, the out parameter is the return type. So in this way, we can have 17 overloaded version of func. Let's create one method to demonstrate how we can use func by it. We have created one print method, just it's returning hello. So we need to match the signature of that method. So we are not taking any input parameter. We have just one out parameter. So we can simply type here string, as our method is returning string, and we are creating instance of this, and let's assign print here. This is the named method print we have assigned to our func object. Simply we can call func, so we can write it in console. Let's call this method. It would print hello. So this is func with no parameter. Let's have some more overloaded method of print to demonstrate how we can use func for more in parameters. So we have two overloaded method of print. One is taking first name and last name and returning concatenation of first name and last name, returning the name. The second one is taking first name, middle name and last name and returning the name accordingly. Let's assign this named method with the func delegate. To call the second method, we need to create a func delegate which should take two string parameter and return a string parameter. So our input types are string, string, and the last one is the return type, which is also string. And we have assigned the method, but see, it's already has taken the second method, I mean the overloaded version 2. Let's pass the name Sapundatta here. And for the last one, we need to create a func having three input string parameter and one output string parameter, which should automatically take the corresponding method. Here I need to pass the middle name. So in this case, the first func will print hello, the second one will print Sapundatta, and the third func delegate will print Sapun Kumar Datta. Let's run the code. Yeah, this is our desired output. So this way we can use func. This way we can refer any named method by func delegate. Let's go into more detail how we can call anonymous delegate and lambda expression. Let's copy and comment the code. We don't need this method anymore as we are going to use anonymous method or lambda expression. So let me comment these methods. So definitely there will be an error as we have commented all this print method. Let me create anonymous method for all of these func delegate. The second func would take two string in parameter and one string out parameter. So we need to create one delegate having two string in parameter and one string out parameter. String A, string B. Actually, we don't need this as the input parameters we pass in delegate and the return type is our basically the type of the output parameter. So return A. Here in the last method, we need to take a delegate having three in parameters, string A, string B, and string C. So now if we call the block of code, it would give us the same output. Let's see. Yeah, the same output, hello Sapun Datta and Sapun Kumar Datta. So this is the implementation of func delegate with anonymous method. We have already seen that anonymous method and lambda expression same. So let me copy and comment this block of code. And let's see how we can do this by lambda expression. So here we don't have any in parameter. So the in parameter would be blank. Then the lambda expression or lambda operator. And we need to simply pass return hello. In this case, the func having two string parameter and which is the in parameter and one out parameter. So to implement lambda expression or to write down lambda expression, we need to take two in parameter or rather two parameter A and B. Okay. And which should give us the return as a string. Okay. So here there is no parameter. there are two parameters, okay, and it would take the type automatically from the func, as func having two string input parameter, so it would also take the type as string and it would return string, so the output parameter is string. You can remove this and we will pass the same parameters upon the it would print upon the the name. Let's remove this, and here we need to take three input parameters, right? So A, B and C, and we need to return A space plus B space plus C. So this is the Lambda implementation of Func delegate. Let's run the code. It would give us the same output. Let's try to demonstrate the action delegate with some example. So if we see, action has in parameter no return type, no out parameter, and there is no return type. So if we go into the definition of action, see, it is a delegate of type void. Okay, there may be overloaded delegate having different, it would take different generic parameter, but the return type is void. Let's demonstrate action by some named method. We have two named method and the overloaded method of print. The first one is just printing in the console hello and having the return type as void. The second one is taking two string parameters, first name and last name, and it is printing the name here and the return type is void. So action would be used if there is no return type. So here either we can pass in parameters or we cannot pass in parameter. In action, the in parameter is not mandatory. So simply we can write action here. It would not take any in parameter. So action equals to print. If we simply call this delegate, it would point to, see here, one reference have been already assigned. That means this is taking that reference. Sorry, I need to call this action. So let's call this or invoke this delegate. Yeah, it's now printing hello. So this is one example of can call a named method having no parameters. Let's try to call the second overloaded print method by action. So here we need to pass two parameters. Action, two string parameters. So string and string. This is for first name and last name. Action 1 equals to print, and if we just we can just simply call action 1 by passing two parameters. So it would print the name by just concatenating first name followed by a space and last name. Yeah, and we can convert this either to anonymous method or lambda expression. So we can call instead of named method, we can simply call action by anonymous delegate or lambda expression. So just I have shown how to call a Func delegate by anonymous method. So I'm not going into that. I'm simply using the lambda expression here. So to call this delegate instead of this method, we can simply create inline method or lambda expression by just simply creating lambda expression. And to convert this action to lambda expression, we need two parameters. You can take if name and L name. Okay, so here we are passing if name and L name. and we are just printing the name. See, the parameter type has been already derived from this action delegate, and the return type is of string, so it would print subconductor. So got the desired output here. So this way we can change action from named method to Lambda expression. Mostly in industry we use Lambda expression for func and action. In 90% of cases func is used, and there are few cases we are using action delegate. We'll see it later how we can do it. To demonstrate predicate delegate, see it's taking one generic type T. Let's go into the definition. So this is a delegate taking one generic type as input, and the return type is always Boolean. Okay, so there are no overloaded method of predicate. So we need to pass one object to it or one generic type to it, which is the in parameter, and there is no out parameter. It's explicitly returning Boolean values. We have created one method is positive, which is taking one number and returning the number is positive or not in form of Boolean. So to assign this named method in predicate, we need to create a predicate delegate having of type in parameter, which is int, and we need to just assign the named method here, and simply we can call this predicate delegate by passing some integer. We can print it in console. Let's run the code. It should return true, right? As we have passed 10 as number and the number is greater than 0, so we are getting true. So instead of named method, simply we can write Lambda expression for this. So to write Lambda expression, we are taking one input parameter of type int and then the Lambda operator, and we have to return the condition, right? So the condition is a greater than 0. This would also do the same thing. Yeah. So this way we can write predicate. But there is one alternative. So instead of this, we can create a func having the int type as integer and the return type is Boolean. Okay. So I can write the same logic here. This predicate delegate and the func delegate are same. So we can replace predicate with a func delegate having a generic type, generic int type, and a explicit return type or out type as Boolean. So these are same. If we run this, we'll get the same result.